We are definitely back and ready to roll. This is episode number 51 of the Shutdown Inning podcast. Steven Rissotto here, along with Tylor Hall, as always. Tyler, before you say anything, I want to apologize because it has been way too long, and a lot of it is my fault because I have not been available. But how you doing?
A
Sorry
lot
for
of it, a
sorry for
lot. Hey, a lot of it is your fault.
most of it, most of it.
Yeah, all good, dude. I know you're the busiest unemployed guy I know, but all good. But yeah, I mean, still good to connect with you anytime to talk ball, and we've got some really cool stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff to talk about. A lot of not so good stuff to talk about too. I think we have a fun
Yeah,
show planned.
a mixed bag today.
Yeah, mixed bag. There's been a lot happening in the baseball world. And when was the last time? Was like before the All-Star break or at after the All-Star game?
We last recorded right after the trade deadline.
Okay. I was thinking way too far back then.
I mean, I mean, before that, it's been a while too. So no worries. But we're here today. You know, we got the seat. We're approaching the final weekend of the season. 3 games left for most teams, 5 for a couple. We'll talk about that later. But you know, the playoff races have taken shape, and so we're about to put a bow on this thing. But speaking of putting a bow on things,
Nice.
Steven, you know, yesterday was the final game in Oakland for the Athletics. Yeah, it was just a heavy day around baseball, especially here in Northern California, and then even more so for A's fans, of course. But what are your thoughts on the last game in Oakland?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a combination of a few things. This is something that people have had on their calendars for quite some time, right? You know, we've talked about the final game being on the 26th, and what it would feel like for a lot of A's fans. And um, I think you and I are like obviously not A's fans, never grew up A's fans, but like there was always kind of like a mutual respect for the franchise and mutual respect for the fans. And I know you did a podcast with an A's fan, and you know, getting probably a lot of your friends were A's fans, right? So,
Yeah.
um, it I kind of expected like a mix between funeral type vibes and a mix between celebration type vibes, and the A's ended up winning the game by a run, and it was celebratory, but like it wasn't. I think the funeral stuff kind of took over, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think um ownership needs to understand that what they're doing is cruel. But I like the celebration. I don't know if like watching from TV was different from being there. I'm sure it definitely was. We know people that were there and say that it was a unbelievable atmosphere, but I think it was a funeral. It really was a funeral. If anything, it was a celebration of life, but it was in the mix between a funeral and the celebration of life, and just a ton of awful stuff that A's fans have had to go through the past not past few years, past 20 years, right? They haven't had a big free agent in a long time. Um, they've failed with ballpark proposals. We've touched on it on this show. It has just been an insane roller coaster, and it was a funeral yesterday. It was 100% a funeral, and A's fans deserve better. Now we're going to see what happens in a triple A ballpark in Sacramento,
Yeah.
and eventually Vegas, but I don't even have any faith in that happening.
I
But
don't even know if eventually Vegas, like, they don't. This is what's kind of confused me the whole time. Like you said, we've known this day, yesterday was coming, and I listened to some sports talk last night, and an A's fan called in and said, even when you know you're going to suffer, you can only prepare so much and think you're ready, and then it actually happens, and you're not sure how it's actually going to hit you. But eventually Vegas, like, I just don't understand how baseball, all the other owners have just bent over backwards to help John Fisher. Like, he's not even paying to play in Sacramento. He's getting all the revenue without having to pay any kind of rent or anything. He doesn't even have a plan in Vegas. So like, how are they opening a ballpark in 3.5 years? You know, opening day, what, 28, or they said, or I think is what their target is.
yeah,
They don't even have a plan yet, let alone shovels in the ground. You know, Vegas has started to come out and say they don't want the A's. Like, they'd rather, you know, have an expansion team that they can call their own instead of taking another city's team. And like, I bet you part of that is seeing John Fisher and Dave Cavill and how they treat their fans and how they run a business. I wouldn't want them moving into my city. And it was tough to watch yesterday, growing up a Giants fan in the 90s. I thought I saw the last Giants game in San Francisco. Being a Kings fan growing up in Sacramento, the Kings, I think there were two potential final last games at Arco Arena that luckily were not their final games in Sacramento. So like I have the kind of the experience of thinking you're seeing the last game or thinking your teams are moving. Um, and I guess that's about up to the point where the A's fans are now. So hopefully, Fisher gonna Fisher and he'll just keep screwing this thing up and eventually force a sell. I don't know if the team stays in Oakland at that point, but as long as Fisher doesn't own the team, they have hope for the franchise, I think.
Yeah. My thing is like, why was it so difficult to not stay in Oakland these next 3 years? Like, what? I understand that Oakland politics are messy and they are not innocent. I understand that, there's different variables that come into the lease at the Coliseum, but why was it so hard for them to stick it out at the Coliseum for 3 more years? Like, I just don't understand that aspect of it.
If I recall right, I think Fisher just didn't want to pay anything really to stay or pay minimal to play at the Coliseum. And I mean, if you think about it, and this is not a dig at A's fans, like you said, they've gone 20 years with a really shitty owner. He's given them nothing to be excited about. He's only raised prices while not investing it into the team or the stadium. But so if they know that that they have 3 more years there and they just keep drawing like a few thousand fans a night, because the A's fans shouldn't give John Fisher their money or their support? Or do you go up to Sacramento and know you're going to sell out every game and get, even if the sellout's only 13, 14, 15 grand, that's still 4 or 5 times more than you're going to draw in Oakland. It's going to be, people up here are going to spend money. Like I've seen some ticket prices already potentially, and they're just ridiculous. So Fisher's just he's going to make more money in Sacramento too. So, I mean, all he's worried about is his own bottom line. He's not worried about, having a good baseball team or how he treats his fans. That's pretty evident at this point.
Yeah, and
Um,
like the thing I keep coming back to and going back to just the final game stuff, like a sports team, a local sports team has such an effect on like people. And Joe Shasky, was talking about this on the radio with Bonte yesterday morning, and Shasky was saying that there's certain traditions in life, right? You go to your mom's side on Christmas Day, your dad's side on Christmas Eve. You have summer parties happening every year. You do Thanksgiving traditions. And one of the traditions that Shasky said that he had is going to games. And he's not the only one. I had that tradition. You had that tradition. And the people that had that tradition in Oakland for 50 plus years, the people that first started it brought their kids, and then their kids brought their kids. And now we're not going to see those people bring their kids. And the A's hat is going to, I don't want to say it's going to shrink into irrelevancy. They're still going to be a team. Hopefully, they still have the same colors and logo and everything when it's all said and done. But at least in the Bay Area, it's not going to have the same effect. We're going to see, like, slowly but surely, this next breed of sports fans coming up not rocking the A's hat in Oakland or in the East Bay or in the Bay Area at all. And it's kind of like how slowly but surely, like Bonte was saying this too, slowly but surely, little, kids in Oakland are going to be wearing 49er hats because that's just how it is. It's the Bay Area team. And they don't have they don't have a team anymore. Oakland's been gutted. The Warriors didn't go far, granted. They still left. The Raiders left, came back, and then left again. And now the A's, like, I mean, I don't think Major League Baseball would ever go back to Oakland. Um,
I don't
just
think they will
because
while Manfred's commissioner, at least.
no, not at all. I mean, it's done. Like this is it. But I don't understand why the 3 years have to be in Sacramento when they couldn't just extend the lease at the Coliseum. I don't know. I know there's business that goes into it, but it was sad. I mean, it was disappointing, and the players were, just even hearing the behind the scenes drama, the players being told to leave right away, the atrocious giveaway, the way that went down, where you needed a voucher to redeem it at the end of the game when you're walking out. Um, they look cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the look than you get him on the way out. I think the on the way out was kind of just so there's less to be thrown on the field kind of thing. Especially
Well,
if
they're
they
trying to
saw
get
how
people to
cheap
leave
they
in the
were.
seventh inning.
Yeah.
They started giving them away in the seventh inning.
Yeah, but I mean, and what was great is when if you, I think you watched the game as well, like not a person left that stadium when the game ended,
Mhm.
including the players, which I think was awesome. You know, the A's ownership just tried to paint the fan base bad again. The players' safety was a major concern. You know, there were a few, smoke bombs and beer cans thrown on the field, which by the way, how do you get a smoke bomb into a stadium? Uh, but for the most part, I think A's fans were really well behaved, all things considered. And then just to tell the A's to like get off the field right away, like, no, there's no way in hell they were going to do that. I'm glad that they, went out, tipped their caps to the crowd and spent a few more minutes with them. And even that, watching the game, like even some of the players stayed out on the field for as long as they could. They had a flight to catch and they had to get going, but saw a few of the guys, hang on the field for 15, 20 minutes after the game because they didn't want to leave.
Yeah, how did they get a smoke bomb into the stadium? Like I know
Yeah.
security, like they all got their notice that they're obviously they don't have jobs at the end of this. But I mean, that's
Well,
kind of a
yeah,
W for security. I mean,
yeah,
if you see
yeah.
that in
They're like,
someone's
do what you
bag,
want.
yeah, I would let him in. Like final game, like, you have a
Well, like I saw like a giant sign that said, "F you, John Fisher," but like all the words, and I was like, "How'd they get?" Oh, like security was probably like, "Yeah, I don't care. He's not my boss after today. Bring it on in."
well, what you do maybe is you go into the stadium and then you write the sign. Maybe.
You're like, "I just brought a bed sheet. Nothing to see here."
You bring an empty board. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
that's
yeah, I
funny.
mean, it was sad. It was cool to see. I mean, I just I knew it was coming. Like you said, I'm not an A's fan. I grew up going to Oakland a lot as a kid, though. Like living up in Sacramento, where it wasn't always easy to get to games. If there was a weekend, my dad and I could go to a ball game, and the Giants were out of town. I went to Oakland, and and until I kind of chose one side, I rooted for both teams. The Giants were always number one, but I rooted for the A's for a long time. I never rooted for them to not do well necessarily. But a lot of memories there at the Coliseum. I've probably gone to somewhere in like the 60 to 70 game range there in my lifetime. So a lot of good memories there. And yeah, it really sucks how A's fans were treated for the last few decades, but especially the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think I've gone there more this year and last year than in my entire life combined. I think I tweeted that, and it's like, and I remember one of the things is I shared like a story with a few people yesterday about how my uncle used to get like box seats right behind the plate, and in these seats right behind the plate there used to be like the waiters and the waitresses, and there was one day where my aunt ordered a Diet Coke, and the waiter comes by and he's got like this tray of drinks, drops off all the drinks, and he's got the drink for my aunt, and it looks like a Sprite. And I'm like, what is that? And then he's like, here's your drink. And she's like, no, I'm sorry, I ordered a Diet Coke. And he was like, well, at the Coliseum, we're trying something different here. He's like, this is our new revolutionary. And he said that it's like Diet Coke, but without the color or whatever. And I was like, as a kid, I grew up thinking that, like, oh my God, the Coliseum like invented a new Diet Coke. It looks like a Sprite. It was still bubbly and everything. So I think of random stuff when I think of the Coliseum. But got the scholarship there last year. That was really cool. And I do want to say, like, shout out the people that help with that. Like more than just like, the scholarship and that's one thing. But the way, how helpful they were in accommodating with the scholarship, can't like can't thank them enough. They were very accommodating with making sure it was delivered, the right way, I guess. And I hope a lot of those people still have jobs in the community, department, and um, but I know a lot of them won't. A lot of them won't make the trip to Sacramento. Um, and it's disappointing for them, especially the ones that have worked there for 50 years,
Yeah.
and even more. So a lot of the locals that are in the East Bay, and they deserve a lot better. They deserve way better. But yeah, my last game that I was there was a few months ago, when somebody else, another one of my friends, Kathy and Noriega, shout out, got this John King scholarship. So really cool to be there for that. But Yeah, I hope that you know what, this is what I hope for the Coliseum. I hope that high school sports get in there, and some of the high school local high school players could play on that field. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that maybe in the next year, but like eventually it's going to be the home of the Roots. It's going to be a
Yep.
soccer stadium. So I don't know if they'll be able to put in, the dirt for high school games. That costs some money to kind of reconfigure the field. But yeah, it'd be really cool. I mean, even if it's high school soccer teams playing out there, use it for something. It's there. So hopefully the community can still appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I saw Otani's first career start on the mound was in Oakland on Easter. I was there for that one.
You've had time to think of
Uh,
these segues.
yeah, and he's also next on our agenda. Shohei Ohtani becoming the first 50-50 club member. He's the founder. And right now he's on a lonely island over there. Another East Bay reference for you, Stephen, that you might not get. But
Don't get it.
you don't know who the Lonely Island is?
No.
I'm on a boat, uh, Dick in a Box. You don't know those songs?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Who
Andy
sang those?
Samberg. It's Andy Samberg and a couple of his friends. They're from the East Bay. They were all writers for Saturday Night Live. I'll have to send you some stuff. Everyone yell at Steven in the comments for not knowing who the Lonely Island is. But anyway,
Spencer
Shohei Ohtani.
Spencer's going off right now.
Yeah. Shohei Ohtani. He's actually at 53 home runs, 56 stolen bases now. But 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. Either of those accomplishments is crazy. Doing them both in the same year is absolutely insane. And the game that he established the club is arguably one of the best single game offensive performances in baseball history. What was it? 6 for 6. I think, what was it? Two doubles, three home runs, 10 RBIs,
Yep, that
and
sounds about
two or
right.
three stolen bases. Yeah, I mean, I was just tracking that game as he got closer and closer. I was tracking. We also had a good friend, Joey, our token Dodgers fan friend, who was at the game. So I was like, oh, I hope he gets to see it. Going into that last game, it was a long shot for him to do it, but Ohtani gonna Ohtani, and he got to see history. But man, uh, how what do you have to say about Shohei Ohtani, man?
Yeah, what a last month and a half, by the way, for Joey. Getting to say goodbye to the Coliseum and seeing Otani's homer down there in Miami to go 50-50. It's incredible. And the most incredible thing about this is that this isn't even him at his best. He's not pitching. I keep forgetting that he pitches too. He's rehabbing.
I'll be interested to see how the offense, like, the other side of that coin is he's only had to focus on hitting this
I don't think
season.
they're going to let him run.
Yeah, he probably won't run as much. Like, so I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not impressive because he's not pitching.
Yeah,
But I think they've been able to kind of unleash him a little more offensively because he's not pitching. But you're right. I mean, even if he's only like 40-40 or 40-30, and then he's throwing, top 4 or 5 in Cy Young voting like he was in Anaheim on the mound next year, it's going to be crazy. I mean, stuff no one's ever seen before on a baseball field, and we've got someone doing it right now.
he's incredible. And yeah, no, I agree. I don't think he's going to run as much, and he's probably playing a little bit more than he would have if he's pitching. The days off are less frequent. Um, so it does make sense that, maybe he's never have a season like this again. And he's 30 years old too. That's another part of it. But it's so special to watch this guy day in, day out. And I know a lot of Giants fans listen and they're gonna say he's on the wrong team, and he is. But
I'll
at the
say it right
same
now,
time,
he is on the wrong team. I wish he was on any other team, but
yeah.
yeah.
But it's still amazing to watch. And almost it's one of those things where, like, it's kind of like Judge. Just when you think like he can't keep doing it, he keeps doing it, right? And even if he's not even allowed to run again when he, pitches next year, it's still incredible. He's still a guy, and I never thought that he would come back. The Dodgers need him for the postseason more than ever. I don't think they're going to go deep into postseason with their pitching. It's just not sound. I saw something today where it's like Kershaw said he wants to come back. I don't think that's the piece necessarily that the Dodgers think they're getting.
Well,
But
it'll
it's
be October, but his left arm will think it's like April or May because he hasn't thrown that much. So maybe that is what they need.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You're gonna get some comments for that. No, just kidding. Um, but he's no, he's special. He's really special, and I think the MVP argument is so interesting. I've seen Lindor's name thrown around, and we're gonna get into award stuff on a different show, but I don't see how Ohtani's not. Like, if you're the first 50-50 guy in baseball history, you are the National League MVP. Like, I just don't see an avenue where, where he gets that. And I don't know if you saw the whole thing with the ball, the
Oh
debate with
yeah.
the baseball. Everybody was fighting over this baseball. We got an 18-year-old suing the guy that actually got it. And I watched the video, and this guy did snatch it, but like suing him for it, like I don't know if I would. I mean, you just got
Well,
to
yeah,
hold
so
on to it. I'm sorry.
it's getting auctioned, and I guess a judge, like, I don't know if the whole lawsuit is denied, but like the junction to stop the auction was denied. So the auction's still going to start. I think it's today even.
And did I
Opening
see right
bid
that the
five hundred
Dodgers offered
thousand.
$300,000 for the ball?
I think I saw something like that, but I don't know if that was the exact number. But
Oh my God, I'm taking that. If you
well,
go to a baseball
if a
game,
team's offering you that right away, that's telling you that it's worth more than that. And it is crazy to see a team offer money like that, because usually it's like, some autographs, a meet and greet. So yeah, to have six figures in front of you, yeah, it's enticing to take. But I mean, they're opening the auction at 500,000, and they have like a buy now of 4.5 million. So like you could say no, end the auction, 4.5 million. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, I mean, the opening bid's almost twice as much as what the Dodgers offered. So, I mean, this guy's gonna set himself up for a while.
yeah. I mean, what dumbass is buying a base? Like, besides like a really rich person that could do that.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not normal people like you and me, Steven. You got collectors who just have a ton of money and they're like, I want that. And so, even if I mean, $4.5 million, Shohei Ohtani is going to have to play 2.5 years to be able to afford that ball on his own, only
yeah,
making 2 million a year.
got to max out the 401k every year.
Yeah, yeah. But and also, like, going back to the MVP discussion really quick in regards to Ohtani, I think there might be more of an argument to give it to someone else if the Dodgers had the overall year that people expected. If their pitching stayed healthy and they were winning the division by, 15 or 20 games. But they're only ahead in the division by 2 or 3 games right now. Without Shohei Ohtani on that team, they probably aren't winning the division. So I think that makes him even more valuable. The numbers he's putting up, and I always try to look at it as like, where would this team be without that player? And they're still probably like a wild card team without Ohtani this season. But I mean, he's definitely won them at least 3 or 4 games on his own. So he's won them the division.
Yeah, and I understand the argument where it's like Lindor does not have the protection in the lineup that Ohtani has. I get it, and I get that the Mets don't have Betts and Freeman, who, by the way, Betts and Freeman maybe weren't at their best. Betts wasn't really healthy this year, towards the second part of the year. Freeman, I haven't looked at the full numbers, but like from what I could tell, he's not having the usual Freddie Freeman year. And then the rest of the Dodgers lineup is just rough. So I think that there is an argument, and I don't know if you saw the quote where it's like Ohtani was trying too hard at the beginning of the year because he felt like every opportunity with a runner in scoring position was their only chance in the game. Because he said that like with the Angels, it was like that. Where you see a guy in scoring position, it's like, oh my God, this is our only chance. Now you come to
Yeah.
this team, it's like you don't have to press, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. He's like not used to, he's like, wait, it's not Rendon behind me.
Yeah. Actually, Rendon
Um,
was never behind him.
yeah.
He's never on the field.
But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Freeman, and really quick, I get, the Dodgers clinched the division last night, but it did potentially come at a cost because Freddie Freeman rolled his ankle in that game, and he was
Saw
wearing
that.
a walking boot after the game. So, I mean, even more little hurdles for October for them. So we'll see. I mean, I hope you're right. I hope they don't do well. No offense to Dodgers fans, but I wouldn't expect you to root for the Giants. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, amazing season, 53 and 56 in and counting. He's going to Colorado for the last 3 games of the year. Might give him some rest for at least a game or two now that they've clinched up. But are they still? Let me take a peek at the standings really quick. Are they
Amazing
still
how people just
battling?
forget about the betting thing at the beginning of the year too.
Yeah, yeah. They are. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the Dodgers take this last series. They are a game ahead of the Phillies for the number one seed, so home field throughout the National League playoffs, um, and potentially the World Series if they make it that far. So, these little, the teams that clinch, they've got these little battles still to potentially, to consider when they decide who to sit and who to play down the stretch. But another team that clinched their division last night, the New York Yankees, their slugger, Aaron Judge, has awoken from his slumber. He had the longest home run drought of his career after hitting 50, kind of like the shutdown inning. And now he's up to 58, Steven, 58 home runs.
50 home. I mean, this is another one kind of like Ohtani, just every night he's going deep. Um, and like he is the American League MVP. I mean, I know again, I don't want to spoil the awards, but I kind of am. He's on a roll right now that is really impactful. I mean, and his homers just are so majestic. The one that he hit for 58 was just in the air for super long time. Um, I mean, he's one of those guys that, we're gonna kind of close our eyes and then open them, and he's gonna be at like 600 homers without even knowing it. Um, and he's been a big part of this Yankee team, and the Yankees have kind of been yo-yoing back and forth with the Orioles this year. They're both going to go to postseason. The Yankees have kind of had the upper edge this final part of the year, and he's been a big reason why. He is the captain of this team. He's been performing. Um, I mean, 144 RBIs too. Um, he's I don't. There's not much an OPS of over 1100. Just another incredible year, and he's him and Ohtani. Like it's good that each league has one of those big boppers. Um, because it gives something to talk about. And it's funny because nobody's really comparing them because they're, different players and everything, but the greatness is like almost on the same type of wavelength, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's crazy about Judge this year, and no one's really talking about it with just looking at the home runs and the 50-50 for Ohtani. Aaron Judge is a Bobby Witt Jr. great season away from a triple crown. He's leading American League in home runs by 14, leading RBIs by almost 30, and he's hitting 325, but Bobby Witt's hitting 332. So probably not enough for him to drop in the final weekend, but I mean, to hit nearly 60 home runs and 325 is just insane.
Any other year, Bobby Witt Jr.'s an anonymous,
Yeah, I mean, he
unanimous
anonymous.
winner. I always say
Just
anonymous.
because he plays for the Royals doesn't mean he's anonymous. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 30-30 season. I think Brent Rooker is he's only got 11. So, but Rooker's having a solid year. Not saying put him in the MVP, but like just talking about these guys that are having really solid seasons that no one's really talking about too much because of guys of what Judge and Ohtani are doing. And also knocking on the door of 40-40. Do you know who it is?
Jose Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez,
How
two
is
home runs
nobody
shy
talking
of
about that?
40-40, and no one's talking about it because Ohtani's 50-50.
Okay,
Um,
I'll be honest. I didn't even know he runs that much. I
yeah.
didn't think he was a base stealer. Maybe that's
I
just
knew
me being naive, but
I think he's got some, I mean, he's had some speed previously. I think he's usually like in the 20s range. Maybe he's gotten into the 30s a few times. Yeah, he's been like high 20s. He did have 1 year of 34, but this year 40 bags. Um, and he's got 1 year where he hit 39 home runs, so he's approaching his uh personal best there. So we'll see. He's got the Astros in town in Cleveland for the final series. I'm sure he'll be swinging for the fences because the Guardians are locked up into their spot. They've won
yep.
their division already. They're not catching the Yankees for the one seed. So he can just barrel up and see what he can do and try to, kind of sneak into the 40-40 club with potentially as little fanfare as possible.
Sometimes I think about like the different clubs, not really 50-50 because that's just so out there that like, but 40-40 like seems gettable to the point where like I'm shocked nobody did it before Conseco. Like, does that make
Well, I
sense? Like
mean,
Mays, like,
guys like Willie Mays said, like if I would have known that like people would care, like I would have gone and done 40-40. Willie
yeah,
probably could have done 50-50 if he wanted to. Back then, these clubs didn't exist and people didn't really care about them as much. It was basically like the 500 win club or the 500 home run club and the 300 win club were like the only clubs people talked about. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, Canseco was the first one in I think it was the late 80s when he first did it. But yeah, man, it's crazy.
yeah. No,
Um,
that's I do think that that's what I was thinking about. I was like, Canseco pulls out the base, and like 30 years later, we just don't care about Jose Ramirez doing it. Or maybe in another year we would care if Ohtani wasn't doing what he was doing. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. Is just like I mean, 40-40 is ridiculous in itself. There's only been a small handful of players to do it, but when you have a guy like one upping that. And he didn't crawl into 50-50. He's at 53-56. I
yeah,
mean, he could easily end up 55-55, 55-56, but
he
but
13'd upped it instead of one up.
yeah, I mean, he didn't just like bust through he didn't walk in the door, he busted through it. But it'll be interesting to see if Ramirez can pull that off. And like we mentioned, a lot of all these players we've talked about playing on winning teams last weekend of the year before the playoffs, and all the divisions are sewn up, Steven. I think the last two were clinched last night. So, even the top wild card spots, I believe, are cinched up. So but what's really cool is we've got three teams in both leagues fighting for the last two wild card spots. In the AL wild card, we're looking like a bunch of fools because the beginning of the year in our prediction show, we talked how crappy the AL Central was, and they're going to have three playoff teams. And the one team that barely misses is going to be a Central team as well. So they're going to have four teams in the hunt to the last weekend. Looks like it's going to be the Twins on the outside looking in. They're 3 games back with 3 to go. So it looks like it'll be the Tigers out of nowhere and the Royals. But what are your thoughts on that AL wild card race and how that's kind of worked its way out?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a tough assignment for the Twins because although the Orioles maybe are going to take it easy, the final home or the final, final series of the year, it's still the Baltimore Orioles. It's a tough opponent. Um, they just lost a really tough one last night to the Marlins. They played for a while actually. That game was going on forever. It went like 12 or 13 innings. Um, so the Twins have it cut out for them this final weekend. Um, they got Baltimore, and then like you mentioned, real quick on the Tigers. Did we have the Tigers on our radar at all this year? Maybe we did. I can't remember. But I
I
think we
think we talked
underestimated
about
the
them a
pitching
little
ability.
bit as maybe being like a year or two away. I don't think we said that they were going to be, terrible. But I mean, I didn't have them in the playoffs. I don't think so.
I don't think I
So
did either.
yeah, and so like just looking at who these teams are playing, like you mentioned, we got the Twins playing the Orioles. Um, so they've got to win out regardless to have a hope. Tigers are playing the White Sox, so you got to assume they're going to win at least one and secure a spot.
Yep.
But the Royals have to play the Braves, who we'll get to them in a second. The Braves are motivated to play really good ball to close out the year. So I think if you're a Minnesota Twins fan, obviously you got to sweep, and you are huge Atlanta Braves fans this weekend.
No, no doubt about it. Um, the wild card is, especially since they added in the three, it's extremely difficult to figure out. So if I have a lapse while discussing this, it's because I don't understand the math.
Yeah, so it's like the 1 and 2 seed, the top two division winners go to the division round automatically. The third division winner plays the bottom wild card, and the 1 and 2 wild card play each other in a best of three, I believe, right?
Yeah, and this rain out with the Braves and Mets, it comes at the worst possible time.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens in the AL. Looks like the Twins will be out, but yeah, pivoting now with the Braves playing the Royals who are involved. So now, yeah, the Braves, yeah, go to kind of pivot there, like hurricane coming through the southeast of the country, so they have to postpone not one but 2 games with obviously no off days left. I kind of agree with our friend Chris Corbett. They should have just found a neutral site somewhere and got these games played. You know, it sucks not to play in front of the home crowd if you're the Braves, but what sucks more, having two games on a neutral site or playing a doubleheader on Monday and potentially having a wild card game on Tuesday?
Oh my God.
Like, I haven't seen the schedule as far, but usually they do, unless they do like all the American League on Tuesday and all the National League start on Wednesday. Like, if there is any NL game on Tuesday and the Braves and Mets both make it in, like one of them is going to have to go right from that doubleheader into a playoff series. And when you talk about, obviously the players playing two games, the pitching, how your pitching's going to be, playing 4 game or 5 games in 4 days. It's just not a good scenario. They could have gone literally anywhere and just played those games.
They got to maybe like make a few more days for something like this to happen, or like if something like this happens.
Well, when they expanded the wild card, which we just talked about, that elongated the postseason. But then they also were having issues in years past where they start playing into late October, early November, and weather becomes an issue there. So you can't really, there's not a lot of wiggle room. They even said, I think they've done away with like tiebreaker games. There's no game 163s anymore. They have a bunch of tie-breaking criteria because they need to start the playoffs as soon as possible
With
after the
like the
season
season
ends.
series stuff, right? The season series
Yeah.
matchup. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so coming into this weekend for the National League, the Braves are a game back of both the Mets and the Diamondbacks for 2 spots. So two of these teams will make the playoffs, one will be out. But it's kind of hard. You can't really look at it as just one game out because the Braves and Mets have 5 games left and the Diamondbacks just have 3. And so I guess you kind of have to look at it in the loss column. And so the Braves are tied with Arizona in the loss column and they're one behind the Mets in the loss column. So it's going to be interesting, man. Like, I mean, in the beginning of the year, we thought the Braves were going to run away with the
Yeah.
East again. Obviously, they've been decimated by some injuries of their own. Didn't expect them, even with those injuries, to be clawing for the last wild card spot, though.
No, 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 no. I thought they would take it. I thought, I knew the Phillies would be good and maybe, a top three team in the National League, but I can't say I saw them taking the division. And that was a big mistake looking back at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting, especially with that double. If they go into that double header, I mean, what would be the craziest scenario going into that double header? Like they're both 1 game behind the Diamondbacks, and they split the double header.
Yep. That would be it. That would be it.
Like this could get really wild. So yeah, we'll see how it shakes out, man. And I have everybody, Spencer, I have Steven contractually obligated. We're recording a playoff prediction episode on Tuesday so we can see how this thing shakes out, make some predictions. Steven Rissotto will be recording 2 shutdown innings in the span of 5 days, allegedly.
I can record. I can record. I can confirm it is in my contract. So it is in my contract that not that I have to record this episode in my contract, but it is in my contract that I have to listen to Tylor Hall when he wants to record. Wait, that means I breached the contract.
Yeah, you've ripped that thing to shreds. You just put it through the shredder. Uh, but yeah, so we'll see how this weekend plays out, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday, and we'll recap all this craziness, and we'll see what October might look like. So should we move to the best part of the program, Stephen?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do
Uh,
3 up, 3 downs. Let's
yeah,
start with the
so
downs. That was one
yeah,
of the
you're
best things we did was moving the downs first.
yeah.
Because I think one day we were like, screw John Fisher. All right, that's gonna
And
be it. We
thanks
shut
for
it down again.
listening.
We shut it down again. No, so it was good that we switched this up. No, there's some good ones today. Um, the first one I want to talk about is McCovey Cove Dave. Okay, so McCovey Cove Dave, if nobody knows, Elliot Ramos, who in any other, maybe if we recorded this on time, Elliot Ramos would have gotten an up for hitting the first right-handed splash hit in the history, the 25-year history of Oracle Park. And it was a no-doubter splash hit to right field. And it landed kind of near McCovey Cove Dave. So if you know, McCovey Cove Dave is a ball hawker. He ended up paddling to the spot. He got the ball, and he does not want to give it back. Um, if you go back a little further, when the Braves were in town, Michael Harris Jr. hit a grand slam. It was his first career grand slam. He wanted the ball back, and there was reports that Dave had wanted a parking spot um, in exchange for the ball, a parking spot in Pier 3032, which is where a lot of the employees and media park, and the Giants denied him that. Um, so now, according to Dave, I reached out, and Dave does not want to give the ball up. And not only does he not want to give the ball up, he said that Ramos has to earn it if he wants it. I don't know what that means
Yeah.
exactly. He said, guys like Hunter Pence, they've done so much for the community. Ramos, we have not seen him yet do anything. So he's
Yeah.
like, it's only his first year. So
I mean, a lot of things here to talk about. One thing is like, so when Harris hit that home run, he said, "Well, this ball is the most important ball to me. I've wanted it for years." And then Ramos hits a right-handed home run into the Cove, and he says like the same thing. This is the most important splash hit I could have caught. It's very important to
he's
me.
worked hard for it.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Um, I totally get it. If you want to keep the ball, just say I want to keep the ball. But he's come off kind of self-righteous here. Like what really bugged me was him saying that like Ramos has to earn it, where he burst on the scene this year, has been arguably like the brightest spot for the Giants in a otherwise, less than stellar season. Um, who's he to say who's earned and hasn't earned getting a home run back? And him saying he works hard for it, like I'm sure it is work to get to the stadium, get in your kayak, but like that's a choice. It's a hobby. Um, you know, uh, it's dedication for sure. But to say that like he's worked hard for this ball, and Major League Baseball players who have like worked their whole lives to get to the major leagues and achieve these things, to say like, well, I've worked hard for this, while saying Major League Baseball players who literally hit the ball for him to retrieve it haven't earned it or haven't worked hard, is just crazy to me. And then you go into the spot where he says, Pence, Belt, other guys had earned it, but Ramos hasn't. But if Bryce Eldridge hits a splash hit, he's going to get it right away because he likes me on Instagram. Like, what are we talking about here? So he's nice to me, so he gets the ball, even if he hasn't earned it. Even if he gets it like in his first game, he's going to give it to Bryce, which I'm fine with. Like I said, his ball, do whatever you want. But when you start talking and making excuses for why you want to do something, they better all line up, or else you're going to get some backlash for it.
Yeah, can't be a hypocrite. And like, I mean, I like Dave, but Dave, give the ball back. Give the ball back to the Giants, give the ball back to Ramos, whoever wants this baseball. You come off looking not so great at all.
Well, it's even, yeah, go ahead. I have a thought for when you're done.
It's like it in a lot of ways, like I don't think you use the word, but I'll use the word. It does kind of come off as narcissistic to kind of, say the words of who deserves it and who doesn't. Because then you open a can of worms, right?
Yeah.
Because this could have been a random guy that hit the home run and then he's DFA'd tomorrow. But like you said, you hit on a lot of good points there, Tyler. He was the all-star representative this year in Texas. When the Giants haven't had an all-star outfielder homegrown since Chili Davis before I was
Yeah.
born and when you were probably like a little kid or
Yeah.
born yet. I don't know.
Uh,
Uh, you were born during the Lincoln administration, so probably. So I don't know. It's not a good look. It's just not a good look. So that's why you're a down.
yes. So Davis played in his first All-Star game in 1984, the year I was born, but that would have been in July. I was born in September. So yes, Chili Davis had his first All-Star game. He made two with the Giants, but his first All-Star game was before I was born. I'll have you know.
Okay, so not like
Um,
1776 or anything, because you
no.
were there when the Declaration of Independence was signed, from what I heard.
Yeah, I got the ink and the little blotter for the quill pen ready for them
Yeah.
actually. Um, yeah, man, it was just bizarre. I forget what my thought was earlier when I started to just talk what you were going, but just he said so. Yeah, he said first Ramos has to earn it, and then he said then he can have the ball once I'm dead. So like he said that like even now he won't even give him the ball. He's gonna have to wait McCovey Cove Dave out and hope he puts it in his will or something at that point. Like, just all these weird stipulations and stuff. I'm like, dude, just like either keep the ball or give him the ball. Don't put all these weird declarations out there
When I'm
and like
dead.
criteria. Yeah. I'm just like, man,
Uh,
like I said, keep the ball if you want to. That's your prerogative. You do dedicate yourself to doing that and being out there a lot. You know, every Giants fan for the most part knows who McCovey Cove Dave is because he's out there in the Cove. But like, you're still a fan. Like, it's a hobby. It's the choice. You're out there. If you catch it, cool. Keep it if you want. A lot of this has been brought on himself, though. Like,
oh
it's
my God. You could have it when I'm dead.
if
The
he
will is
earns
going to
it,
be
he still has to earn
on
it
me.
before then. He can't just like not earn it and then he gets it when, yeah,
Oh my
whatever.
God. Imagine the will. Just all these players like are getting
Michael
deliveries to
Harris,
the
Michael Harris gets, yeah.
Michael Harris.
All of a sudden, a little box shows up on his door. But yeah,
Oh my God, that's incredible. That is so incredible. And then the comments hyping him up where it's like, "You're a badass, Dave. Like, don't let the Giants." Like, I get it, but at the same time, do the right thing. Um, all right, down number two. Some of these are just so like interesting that they're worth laughing about. So Rowdy Tellez was DFA'd by the Pirates. Um, and he was 4 plate appearances shy of clocking in a $200,000 bonus, and the Pirates cut him. And this is a guy who's been on their big league team playing regularly for the entire year, and they drop him. He needs 1 game to get this in, or literally 1 game.
yeah. I
And
mean, there's got to be a grievance from the players' union coming for this.
I mean, there has to be. This is something that is it was surprising. I'm like, okay, they DFA'd Rowdy Tellez. Then it's like 4 games left. And then I thought about it. It's like he's been playing for them like if you are
131
close,
games. He's
yeah,
played 131 games.
if 131 games, which means like you're automatically obviously close to that that bonus. Anytime you're close to a bonus, that means you've been playing and you've been performing. And what happens to where it's September, late September, a few games left, and all of a sudden, like you're not going to ride it out the rest of the year? And $200,000 is not a lot for a Major League Baseball team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and a guy, from what I've heard, is a pretty decent leader on that team, and um,
I mean, he does have,
apparently,
I don't
yeah,
live and die by WAR. He does have a negative WAR this year. So it's not like he's been like tearing the cover off the ball. But I mean, he's obviously one of the best players you got if he's played 130 days in your lineup.
yeah,
It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I'm sure there will be a grievance from the players' union. The Pirates will say we were eliminated from the playoffs when we needed to give the at bats to our young kids to see what we had moving forward. We didn't even realize the thing the bonus was impending. But yeah, it's got to be a bad look, and it's got to make some other potential free agents when they're choosing a home. Do they look at this and say, oh, well, that's how you treat your players? Like, I don't know if I want to sign there. We'll see. It could have an impact.
yeah. No, and what is a few games going to be for those young players? Like, give me a break. Uh, that's insane.
One of those guys would have been a Hall of Famer, but Rowdy Tellez stole at bats from him in 2024.
Exactly. That guy never got to like 3,000 hits. He ended up the Bernie Mac. What was it 2,998 or something?
Yeah.
Or
That's,
what? How many hits didn't count? Was it one hit that didn't count? I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
it's been a while for me as well. But
Yeah. Same kind of thing though. Last down, and this one is Tyler and I were laughing about this before we recorded, but CJ Abrams was demoted by the Washington Nationals, and should I say all-star CJ Abrams was demoted.
you should.
Yes, all-star. He represented them in Texas. He was teammates with Elliot Ramos. By the way, rough time for first-time all-stars. Ramos not getting the ball back and CJ Abrams getting demoted. But apparently the reason he was demoted, and this wasn't confirmed by the team, but they kind of implied it. They sent him down. This is from the New York Post. Sent him down with roughly a week to go in the regular season after Abrams reportedly spent the entire night at a casino near Chicago and left just hours before the Nationals faced the Cubs in a 1 p.m. game on Friday. So this guy was out at 8 a.m. and then had a day game to play mere hours early or hours later. And the Nationals said, "We're not having this. You're going to get sent down." So, I mean, like you said, it's 8 a.m. is crazy in its own, but a day game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at least a night game. I mean, I'm not gonna say you should do it before a night game either, but you can still get home, get back to the hotel, get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep before you have to head to the yard. 8 a.m. So he's like perhaps 5 hours before he's supposed to be on the field at Wrigley. That's just
Yeah,
I file this one under play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like,
exactly. This is like the ultimate, like, there's some things we use the term where it's like, oh, I hope he learns his lesson. But this is literally the definition of that. Like, literally, I hope he learns his lesson. Like, he's not harming anybody other than himself. So that's why it's a good
yeah.
lesson to be learned. If there's other people involved and something happened bad, then maybe you don't say that. But he's not harming anybody. He's just looking stupid. And I don't know if you saw the Mets broadcast. Keith Hernandez had a funny quote where he was like, oh, what did he say? He said something really funny where it was like, um, uh, maybe 4 a.m. or something like that. And then Ron Darling was like, well, this sounds like somebody speaking from experience.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, Abrams is only 23, so he is a young guy in the big leagues. So yeah, hopefully, just we're weeks away from the offseason. Go gamble in a couple weeks, CJ. You'll be
Yeah.
all
Keith Hernandez said, quote, I could see 4 in the morning, but not 8 a.m.
right.
And we know what kind of teams that Keith Hernandez played on.
Do we know? I think I saw pictures online of him at like a table. Is that how it got out? Was like someone saw him and reported it, or did the team like see him coming into the hotel when other people were walking out to get on the bus? And they're
People
like,
are,
wait a minute.
why would you even go back to the hotel? I mean, I did see the picture. It did look legit. I don't know how it was discovered that he was out that late,
Yeah.
but I would be interested to know the whole story.
Yeah.
Maybe
Um,
someone got in his face. Was like, what the hell?
yeah. Um, he got to the clubhouse and some table chips fell out of his pocket.
Yeah. And you know how the how some of the casinos have the receipts with the times?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, are you good on the down? Should we move it to the ups and on a high note?
Let's do let's end on a high note.
There we go. All right, three ups. The first one, I'm going to start with the White Sox. As of now, they've still avoided making history. They just swept the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim near Disneyland. Leave it to the Angels to not be able to get a win against the White Sox.
The
I don't
only
know.
team that could do that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's their first sweep of the year. I know they've had a couple 3-game winning streaks. I don't know if any of those were parts of sweeps, but obviously they haven't won a lot of games. But they are tied for the most losses in a major league season. They need to win. So they're tied with the Mets, the 60 something Mets. I'm blanking on the year. Excuse me, Steven, you probably know. Um, so they're heading into the final weekend still with a chance to avoid making history. So the reason I'm putting them on the ups is they could easily have just like thrown in the towel. They still they won 3 games, which is like 10% of what they've won all year, and they reeled them together. So good for them. So I'm giving them an up here, Steven.
Good for them. They deserve to be on the winning side of something. Actually they don't, but they are on the winning side of something. Um, and yeah, trying to get out of that territory of being the worst team of all time. Anybody on that team, if that happens, automatically has that to their resume, unfortunately, and it's something you don't want to carry around with you for the rest of your career. But um, yeah, I mean, it can only go up from here. So, I mean, next year, I can't imagine it being any worse. There's going to be some changes in Chicago, much needed changes. We've talked about how much of a mess they are. There's another article in The Athletic talking about how much of a mess they are. Jerry Reinsdorf, man, he doesn't have Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman anymore. He doesn't. he
Yeah.
he's hitting the part of his career where his legacy is not what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. They're still probably going to lose at least one and set the record because they're playing the Tigers. We'll see. I mean, maybe even if the Tigers lose today, if the Twins lose, the Tigers clinch a spot. So crazier things have happened, but yeah, good on those guys for still at least attempting to win baseball games. And
Yep.
quick shout out to the White Sox Twitter admin who's been having a lot of fun with how bad this team has been this year, especially in the last few weeks, not announcing the final scores when they lose and stuff. Have you seen some of those posts,
Didn't
Steven?
they say something where it's like, "Oh my God, we won one," or something like that?
Yeah, they did something like that. And they've made some like really funny memes about not putting the final score out there when they lose. So um up number two, I'm gonna go with the postseason celebrations for some of the players under 21, the two Jacksons, Jackson Chourio and Jackson Holiday. Their teammates both having some fun with them as they clinch playoff spots. I think Churrios was first, and they basically filled like a stroller with like non-alcoholic beer and non-alcoholic wine and wheeled it in front of his locker. And the Orioles did something similar. They got like a little baby holiday jersey and like hung it over a stroller, and they put like the attention to detail on the Orioles was really nice. Did you notice they put like some pictures from like a coloring book up
Yeah.
against the plastic behind him, like with it all scribbled in, like a little kid would have drawn it? So it's cool that these guys are having fun, and their teammates are giving them uh, a hard time while still making sure they're part of the celebration. I'm sure not a sip of alcohol was consumed by either of those underage gentlemen.
Yeah, there's no way that was all for show. There's no way that they didn't have anything. But it is cool that they're getting a taste of postseason. Those two guys, especially they're young, it's going to set them up good for the rest of their career. Chirino is like 20, born in 2004 or something crazy like that.
Is he younger than you, Steven? Is that what you're getting at?
They both are. So, I mean, I haven't dropped that on the show in a while. Don't say anything.
Uh, Trio just turned 20.
Yeah.
Or
So,
no, in March he turned 20.
yeah. So, that's um crazy. And the funny thing was Jackson Holiday, I saw the picture and then there's a tweet from our good pal, friend of the show, Barry Brennan, who tweeted and was like, the funny thing about this is that guy's literally married. It's funny to think that Jackson Holiday's married. It's
Yeah.
funny to think
Yeah.
that he's even 20. I mean, just looking
Yeah.
at the guy, like it's like he looks like he's 16 years old. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah, a Holiday just a few months older than Churio. He'll be 21 in December.
yeah. But
Um,
I'm excited to see Jackson Holiday in the postseason. It's just going to mean that the holiday is coming early this year.
Boo this man.
Yeah,
But yeah, cool to see those guys get a taste of the postseason and a taste of some
a taste of
Martinelli's
some
cider.
O'Doul's. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the
Uh,
Heineken 00?
yeah, that's actually, I mean, if you enjoy Heineken, it tastes just like Heineken if you've tried it.
No,
But
Heineken's awful.
yeah. Then the last up, I'm giving it just to kind of bring it back to where we started the episode. Mark Kotsay, for the job he did with the A's all year, both handling the media when their ownership group was too cowardly to speak, and just for the way he made sure his team stayed on the field yesterday despite that ownership, and giving a nice but still brief speech to Oakland, and making sure that the crowd got one last "Let's go
Yeah.
Oakland"
Was
chant
told not
in at
even
the
to do
Coliseum.
that. Yeah.
Yep. Imagine if you would have said, "I need, all right, we need to do one more cheer. Sell the team on three."
Well, he's got a job that he's going to continue. That's the what his what's riding on his coattails. But no, yeah, like I
If
just
you're
said,
Mark Kotsay, is the worst thing that could happen to you is you get fired from the A's, so you don't have to go to Sacramento, and then like another team who is actually committed to winning hires you. Like Kotsay is going to get a job somewhere else whenever he's
no, I
done with
get
the
that. I
A's.
get that. But the meaning behind it was like there's one of 30 jobs. There's one of
Yeah.
30 of these jobs and he's got one and um somebody somebody said like what's the away team's reaction going to be when they pull up in Sacramento? Like what are we doing tonight, guys? So
Yeah.
I guess they could hang out with Tyler Hall or something like that. But um but But yeah, no, it was cool to see him do that and kind of defy the orders of like, hey, don't even pick up a microphone, which was being reported, and having all the players around. And you know, he played with the A's too. And that's like a big part of this. Like we forget how much it means. Like if this was a guy who first year manager and it's somebody who has never experienced Oakland baseball, it wouldn't have hit the same. But this is somebody that knows Oakland baseball. He's been there for a few years now. In the few years that he has been there, it's been all distraction. Every single bit of it's been distraction. But he's played there. He's played with the Zitos and the Hudsons and those guys, and he kind of has an idea of what it's like and what the community is like. So kudos to him. And you know, it's not going to be ever the same wherever they go. Vegas,
Yeah.
Sacramento, you name it, it's not ever going to be Oakland. So
Yeah, I mean, he even talked about, like, I saw the tweets and the pictures before, but he even mentioned it in his speech yesterday, how after the last night game on I guess what would it have been, Wednesday night,
Wednesday.
him and his wife walked out to center field because that's where he played most when he was with the A's, and he just kind of looked around and took it all in. So yeah, just A+ job by him, all year long,
Is that a pun?
handling. What did I say?
A plus.
Oh, unintended, but crushed it.
Mhm.
Um, so good for him. Job well done, and I'm sure he'll be happy this year's over, so he can breathe a little bit and get ready for Sacramento.
Exactly. Um, yeah, he'll be moving on, and so are we, because I think we shut it down again.
Hey, oh, hey, Steven, that was decent. I'll give
Thank
you
you,
a
thank you, thank you. You're wearing your cell shirt, by the way. Your homemade cell shirt.
yeah. Homemade cell shirt. Figured it was fitting for the
Yeah,
episode. I'm probably gonna wear it. I'm going to the ballpark tonight. I'm gonna probably wear it under my jersey and my hoodie.
yeah.
Why not?
Fruit of the loom. Fruit of the loom. No, yeah, we shut it down again, and I'm glad that we could do this. And again, sorry to everybody for the delay in episodes. Things got a little busy. Maybe I'll have something to announce next time around.
Hey, a little tease for everybody. There we
Yeah,
go.
little tease.
But yeah, we shut it down, man, and we'll be back in hopefully a few days with another one talking about postseason baseball.
Let's do it. Thank you everybody for listening. We you could find us on Apple, Spotify. Go check us out. On Twitter at @shutdown_inning. Go follow us there, and we will see you next time.
That's what's up.
Bada babe.